Here are some of the strangest Florida man stories out there. Wait until you hear why one Florida man decided to drive his Ferrari into the ocean. Number 14, I meant now. Hermes Gallijas-Gasperin, a 22-year-old unemployed Florida man, was arrested after repeatedly throwing sausages at his mom inside her kitchen. Most likely it's his mom's kitchen because, come on, he doesn't have a job. So why exactly did he throw sausages at his mom? Because he was hungry. And no, she actually didn't say no after he asked her to make him food. She just told him he had to wait because she was busy. But he was that impatient, so he threw sausages at his mom until she called the police. Because apparently in Florida, that makes a lot more sense and takes a lot less energy than to cook the sausages himself. He was arrested for misdemeanor, domestic battery, and taken to county jail. Hey, do us a big favor and hit that like button if you enjoy listening to crazy Florida man stories. Number 13, Keurig Basketballs. Does this sound right to you? Florida man Andrew Lippi was arrested after he was caught stealing from Kmart for $300 in household items. What makes this really weird is that Lippi supposedly is rich because he's the owner of an $8 million private island. Lippi was arrested on a felony grand theft charge after he purchased items such as a Keurig machine, but later returned them to Kmart with a different item in the original packaging. Aha, that classic scam. Lippi, who also owns a house used during a season of MTV's Real World, bought Thompson Island off Key West for $8 million just the week before his crime spree. A loss prevention officer at Kmart told police Lippi bought a Keurig coffee machine and returned it the next day, but inside the box was a basketball. He also bought and returned a bed skirt. However, a pillowcase was inside the packaging instead. Number 12, no mas. One Florida man actually wanted to go to jail because he absolutely wanted to avoid spending time with his wife. Florida Highway Patrol pulled over and arrested 70-year-old Leonard Olson after he was found standing through his sunroof as his car was driving down the interstate. The deputy said Olson was veering from lane to lane while sometimes driving over 100 miles per hour. After state troopers finally pulled him over, Olson said that his car had a gigantic computer and was able to drive by itself. And that's why he said he took the chance to praise the Lord through the sunroof. Ah, that explains everything. Of course, that wasn't even the weird part. Olson asked if he could just turn himself in. He said he'd rather be in jail than be treated as a servant in his own home by his wife. Make sure to click that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get the next Florida man video in this series. And before we move on to the next entry, here's a little trivia question for you. Gatorade was invented in 1965 in which Florida city? Is it A, Gainesville, B, Tallahassee, C, Miami, or D, Jacksonville? You'll find out the answer a bit later in the video. Number 11, Arachnophobia. Florida man Eric Ortiz decided to face his fear of spiders head-on by getting a black widow spider tattooed on his cheek. Well, that's one way to tackle a fear. Ortiz said it's a reminder for him not to be scared of spiders. He said, quote, "That's why I got it, just to make me know that that's what I fear, but not to fear it. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? Well, Ortiz is afraid of spiders, but it doesn't seem like he's afraid of jail, because when he was interviewed by a local newspaper, he was at the courthouse dealing with a felony charge of driving with a suspended license. And he also faced charges that include burglary, domestic battery, possession of Schedule 4 substance, and retail theft. Number 10, shirts versus all skins. Should you be careful when you play a pickup basketball game in Florida? Florida man Jordan Anderson was charged with indecent exposure after police found him playing basketball. Well, not just playing basketball, I'm sure you guys figured that out, but playing basketball naked at a public park. The police were called after people noticed a guy casually walking without clothes around the park. Seriously, how can someone play basketball with so many parts flying around? Responding officers found Anderson naked and playing basketball on the court. When they asked him what he was doing, he told them that he was just working on his game. Surprisingly, when police asked him to put his clothes back on, he did. And thank goodness for police, he was arrested fully clothed. Number 9. Easter Bunny Savior. Do you remember this viral clip? Antoine McDonald is the Florida man behind the Easter Bunny outfit in the viral video of an Easter Bunny fighting a man. While McDonald was praised for his efforts to defend a woman, he is also wanted in connection for a car burglary that took place in the fall of 2018 in New Jersey. So why was he in an Easter Bunny outfit? He and his friends bought and wore the bunny suit just as a joke, and they took turns wearing it around. McDonald and his friends were bar hopping when he saw a man and woman fighting. He had intended just to break up the fight, but then the man started grabbing his leg. So McDonald began punching the man until the police came. Someone ended up filming the fight, and the video went viral. Just because people like seeing someone in a bunny suit beat up another person. What a time to be alive. Number 8. Not the typical catfish. Do you know someone that likes to impersonate law enforcement after they've had one too many? Me neither. Christian Dudley was arrested after riding his bicycle onto the front lawn of a Naples home and telling the woman who lived there he was an FBI agent. He had on a FBI hat and his bicycle had flashing red and blue lights. Dudley told the woman she needed to prove her legal status in the US. Well, the lady wasn't exactly convinced that he was an FBI agent and told him that he needed to leave her property or else she would call the police. So did he leave? Of course not. And because he didn't leave, the woman and her husband called the police. At that point, Dudley actually began to ride off on his bicycle. And of course, this story gets weirder. Before he left, he dumped several live catfish he had in his backpack on their driveway. Officers eventually arrested him after he was found riding his bike nearby. And in case you were wondering, yes, he had been drinking. Number 7. Waka Flocka Fence. You guys love your best friends, right? But we bet you wouldn't do what this Florida man did. Patrick Rimp missed his friends so much, he tried to break into Indian River County Jail by driving his car through the front door and then trying to climb the fence. Unfortunately for him, he got caught on top of the fence, which had razor wire. So how did police know that he was trying to hang out with his friends? Well, he just admitted to it. He also confessed that he was in the clouds with something called flocka, which apparently gives you the superpower of thinking you can drive through a jail's entrance. Officials estimated the damage at around $5,000. $5,000 that this Florida man isn't able to use on more flocka in the future. Number 6. No judging. 36-year-old Kyle Thurston just wanted to ride a swan, but he never thought about making the trip back. The police had to rescue him after he stole a swan boat at Lake Yola and then accidentally stranded himself in the middle of the lake. Kyle successfully made it to the fountain on the lake on the stolen swan boat. However, things went south when the swan boat drifted away. He decided his best course of action was it A, call a friend, or was it B, swim across, or C, just wait until morning, or was it D, scream for help for the police so he could get arrested? If you chose D, you chose right. Florida man went with the worst decision possible. Officers who responded to the incident easily rescued him. So why did Florida man choose option D? He told police that he was hanging with Molly, if you catch our drift, and he wanted to be with the swans because, quote, they don't judge him. Yeah, clearly Molly and her friends didn't put him in his right mind. Number 5. Political crabs. Of course, when it comes to the election, the typical Florida man seemed to be against Hillary. What do you think? Vote in our quick poll. Back in 2016, with the election coming up, Brandon Morse found a surprising political message on the back of one of the crabs he caught after he went crabbing in Tampa Bay. On the underside of the crab was a message written with a Sharpie pen. That message? Hillary is a lying B.E. Well, you guys can figure out the rest. The only explanation explanation is that some Florida man had been writing anti-Hillary messages on crabs and throwing them back into the sea. That way, someone else can catch the crabs so they'd vote for Trump. Makes sense. It's either that or the crabs have gotten really political these days. We'd wonder what they would have to say about Alabama senators right now. Number 4. Peacocking. Apparently, peacocks appealed to the average Florida man. One Florida man ruffled some feathers when he decided to steal a peacock that was outside a woman's home. This took place in the Coconut Grove section of Miami and was caught on surveillance video. The footage shows a truck pulling over and a man stepping out from the vehicle. Then, out of nowhere, he starts trying to grab one of the many peacocks strutting around the property. But why? Is there a peacock resale market we don't know about? The poor peacocks ran away in terror, but eventually this bird bandit managed to capture one of them. He tucked it under his arms and escaped on foot. The rest of the flock actually chased him, but he managed to jump in his car and speed away with the peacock. A better question is, why were there so many peacocks in this lady's yard? Wild peacocks have become a thing in different parts of Miami because of some homeowners who just wanted better ornaments in their yard. Number 3. Definitely a DUI. A Florida man was charged with a DUI, or maybe in this case it's really a LUI, since he was using his lawnmower while intoxicated. Wait, do people actually say they're lawnmowering? Actually, don't do what we just did, which was looking it up on Urban Dictionary. This guy didn't just use his lawnmower while drunk, he plowed into a police car with it while drunk. According to the police, an officer handling another incident heard a loud noise. When the officer turned around to see what was going on, he found Gary Anderson behind the wheel of a lawnmower and near the officer's parked police car, which had minor damages to the bumper. Anderson admitted to hitting the car and told the officer at the scene to just take him to jail because he was drunk. After he failed to pass any of the sobriety tests, Anderson was arrested. Police ran a criminal background check on Anderson and found that his license had been suspended since 1978. Sounds like this guy needed some Gatorade to help clear that alcohol out his system. And that brings us to the answer of our trivia question. In which city was Gatorade invented? The answer is A, Gainesville. And to be more specific, it was invented at the University of Florida, home of the Gators. And of course, that's why it's called Gatorade. Number 2, Jesus take the wheel. Imagine this, you have a Ferrari 360 and you decide to drive it into the ocean. Why? Because Jesus told you to. That's exactly what this Florida man did, and luckily for us, the whole incident was caught on a dash cam. Seriously though, who does that? The police were wondering the same thing, because Florida man James Muchacho Jr. is the type of person to drive a Ferrari off a dock. Basically, it goes like this. He parked his Ferrari 360 on a dock. A police officer approached him and told him he wasn't allowed to park there. They have what looks to be a calm conversation on surveillance cams. So Muchacho gets back into his car and starts to back up off the pier. But then, all of a sudden, he drives it into the ocean. At first, the police officer thought it was an accident, but nope, he did it on purpose. He drove it off the dock because, well, apparently Jesus told him to. According to Muchacho, Jesus made him the smartest man on earth, and having that big of a responsibility was just too much. Yep, makes sense in Florida. Number 1, alligator smells. Florida man Raymond Fettig was caught with alligator parts in his car. An officer noticed a scaly alligator foot sticking out of his dashboard when he was pulled over by Wildlife Commission officers. They were checking for his day pass to the Corbett Wildlife Management Area. You would think that he would hide alligator parts better since he knew he would be stopped to have his day pass checked. But no, this is a Florida man we're talking about. Officers noticed random alligator parts scattered throughout the cab of his truck. That's just disgusting. Officers also noticed that there was a strong decaying odor coming from the car, which, yeah, kinda hints to decaying gator parts. Fettig ended up admitting that all the gator parts were from an alligator that was allegedly obtained a few nights earlier. Here are some more of the strangest things that Florida man does. Wait until you find out the life lesson one Florida man gave a bunch of kids at a playground. Number 14, change of heart. Florida man Anthony Ballard somehow, someway, successfully stole a chainsaw from a hardware store by sticking the chainsaw down his pants and running out of the store. No, employees weren't actually sleeping on the job, because when they saw Ballard run out with a $600 chainsaw down his pants, they actually chased after him. But Ballard, a Florida man who obviously thinks 2 steps ahead, tossed the chainsaw into the woods before getting away. We did say he thought 2 steps ahead, right? Because he came back after just 40 minutes to get the chainsaw. Unfortunately for Ballard, 28 employees knew the chainsaw had been tossed into the woods. When they saw him snooping around for it, they called the police. Why didn't employees just go get it themselves? Because they knew he'd go back for it? According to the police report, Ballard said he was actually getting the chainsaw to return it to the store, because of course he had a change of heart about stealing the chainsaw. If you're loving these stories about Florida man so far, do us a favor and hit that thumbs up. Number 13, a bag disguise. Florida man Kerry Hammond decided to rob a GameStop. Except he decided to do it while wearing clear plastic wrap as a mask. How does that help in any way, shape, or form in a robbery? He just wrapped the plastic around his head to disguise his ears? It didn't even cover the front of his face. Of course, it didn't take long for police to track Hammond down, since his, let's just call it, unique disguise was completely seen through. Even the police were laughing about it on their Facebook page when they posted the surveillance video so the public could help track him down. Number 12, don't scroll left. If you're gonna prove your innocence to police with a video, just make sure the same video doesn't prove you're guilty of something else. This Florida man was so dumb, he traded in a lesser charge for a more serious charge accidentally. Xavier Moran was involved in a car crash, one that supposedly wasn't his fault. He had told the sheriff's deputy that he had been cut off by another driver, and that's why the accident happened. Moran told police that he could prove the other driver was at fault because his dash cam was on. So he handed over the memory card from his dashboard camera. He then signed a consent waiver for police to search the camera. When the Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy reviewed the footage, he reviewed all the footage. And he watched Moran rob a beauty store. The video showed Moran taking a baseball bat from his trunk and using it to break the glass door of a store. He then proceeded to go inside and rob it. Who forgets that that's on film? Well, the good news is, he was right. The car accident wasn't his fault. Number 11, ATM assault. Florida man Michael Alexic caused $5,000 in damages to an ATM back in 2017. Why? It's quiz time. Was it because A, the ATM looked at him wrong? Or was it B, because he was trying to steal money from the machine? Or was it C, because the machine gave him too much money? Or was it D, because he was trying to take the entire machine home? If you chose A, you're right in that Florida man is crazy, but that's not why he beat up the ATM. The correct answer is C, because the ATM gave Alexic too much money. Some people dream of an ATM spitting out extra money, but not this guy. Alexic reportedly called the bank to apologize and said he punched the ATM because he was angry that the ATM was giving him too much money. He didn't know what to do because he was in a rush to get to work. Bank officials did note that Alexic sounded very apologetic for the damage he caused, but they decided to press charges anyways after they realized the extent of the damages. Do you think he should have even bothered calling the bank? Number 10, tase me, bro. Florida man Chris Haynes was in a hurry to catch a plane. Well, he was in a hurry to catch a plane, and he was only wearing his underwear. Haynes sped through Tallahassee Regional Airport's main entrance and left his vehicle unattended in the drop-off loading zone. Of course, the officer who spotted him tried to stop him as soon as he pulled up, but Haynes just shouted that he had a plane to catch. He ran towards the TSA checkpoint and completely ignored the officer. So, unfortunately for him, the officer decided to tase him in order to stop him. Haynes ended up uninjured, and surprise, he actually didn't have a plane to catch after all. Haynes actually told police that he knew that the officer who was chasing him would probably eventually tase him. He added, quote, "I kinda always wanted to be tased." So basically he pulled this stunt just so he could get tased? By the way, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next Florida Man video. Number 9. Karate practice. Do you practice karate on live animals? Of course you don't. You're a completely sane human being and not a psychopath. Too bad we can't say the same for this Florida man. Rocco Joseph Montello was found practicing karate on swans at a park in Orlando. One witness said Montella kicked 2 swans in the head and another in its butt. Apparently the kicks were strong enough to knock the swans over. Seriously, what's wrong with this dude? The same witness said Montella also kicked a small duck that appeared to have been just minding its own business sleeping. Come on, Florida man, I know you have a heart somewhere. Another witness said that they saw Montella chasing a swan, and when Montella saw his reaction, he just laughed and continued going after animals throughout the park. Thankfully, police finally arrived at the scene and arrested him, ending his karate session, but not fast enough. Number 8. Fake doctor. In 2016, then 18-year-old Malachi Love Robinson wanted to open his own medical practice. However, this Florida man child wasn't exactly Doogie Howser, and he definitely didn't go to med school. He was arrested for posing as a licensed doctor. He went as far as opening his own West Palm Beach offices. An undercover agent posed as a patient at his clinic to seek advice as part of a sting operation. Love Robinson actually performed a physical exam and offered his supposed medical expertise. Of course, he was quickly arrested and booked for practicing medicine without a license. The craziest thing? This wasn't the first time he was arrested for this. The Palm Beach County Department of Health had previously investigated and charged him with the same scam back in 2015. How'd he get out of jail so quickly? Don't you think there should be more serious charges for pretending to be a doctor? Number 7. Bingo. Who knew that pettiness has no age? 82-year-old Florida man Fred Smith got so mad over a woman taking his favorite seat at his local bingo game that he decided to slash her tires. Police said that he took an ice pick to the 88-year-old Ethel Britt's van during their weekly bingo game. Apparently, Smith stormed out of the bingo hall and punctured 2 of Britt's tires just because she was sitting in a chair he usually sits in. Smith was easily caught by police because he was caught in the act on surveillance video. Police said that Smith admitted to doing the crime and actually was regretful about what he did. Smith faces having to pay $500 in tire damage and restitution back to Britt. Amazingly enough, when asked about the incident, Britt said that she wasn't mad and harbored no ill will towards Smith. All she wanted were some new tires. But who was more petty? Fred Smith or the guy who wrote the political messages on the crabs in our first Florida Man video? Be sure to check out that story if you haven't heard it. Number 6. Not just change. Florida man Shane Mell stole a bunch of coins from a strip mall office. Approximately $350,000 worth of rare coins. And what did Mel end up doing with them? He just cashed them in at Coinstar machines all over Palm Beach. The owner of the coins, Michael Johnson, said that Mel easily had dumped at least $33,000 worth of coins into just one of the Coinstar machines. Johnson said he inherited a large coin collection from his father around 6 years ago. And after Mel got his hands on them, they're mostly gone. Apparently, there's a bit of backstory, because Johnson actually knew Mel for a few years through mutual friends. Johnson had employed Mel to help Mel out. However, Mel said that Johnson deserved what happened because he had owed him money. This is a classic he said, she said. But Mel was of course arrested and charged for the theft. Whatever the story, dropping extremely valuable coins through a change machine just to get a few bucks definitely qualifies for extremely Florida man. Number 5. Florida man's church. Technically, this isn't about a Florida man, but really a Florida building. One Florida church in Panama City lost its tax-exempt status in 2015 because apparently it operated like a nightclub. Police had long suspected that activities at the church, called the Tabernacle, weren't church-like at all. The event that caught the attention of the police was called Amnesia. Amnesia had been hosting slumber party Sundays, and its organizers advertised that it has, quote, sexiest ladies on the beach. They're not exactly shy in their promotional videos. Organizers claimed that the $20 taken from each patron at the door is actually a donation, and that no alcoholic drinks are served. Does this sound right to you? Also, the pastor of the church is a guy named Marcus Bishop. He's someone who has had some run-ins with the law for, let's just call it, illegal substances. According to the organizers, Amnesia is an event where young people can go for some fun during spring break in a safe environment up to 5 in the morning. Yep, sounds like everything is perfectly normal here. Number 4, pole position. Florida men Blake Waller and Victor Appler apparently didn't think that having a giant light pole on the top of their car was gonna attract much attention. Trying to steal a downed pole because of a hurricane is definitely illegal, just in case you didn't know. An officer overheard the scanner that 2 shirtless men were loading a light pole on top of their car. The officer then noticed that a light pole was missing from an area on top of the bridge close to him, and saw a car driving with the light pole on its roof. Talk about being at the right place at the right time. So he pulled them over and asked them questions. Thinking quickly, Appler told the police that he was moving the pole because it was blocking traffic. That's actually not a bad explanation. However, this probably wasn't the officer's first pole-stealing rodeo, because he quickly checked a pawn shop database and found that Appler had over 70 scrap metal-related transactions that year. For what it's worth, the pole was valued at $2,500, so it kinda made sense why these Florida men did it. But come on, nobody actually owns a light pole. Number 3, pancakes. Florida man Kyron Thomas was arrested back in 2017 for sitting in the middle of a crosswalk and eating pancakes on a Tuesday morning. Why? Our question is, why not? It's Florida we're talking about. The Lakeland Police Department received a call around that Tuesday morning with news that a shirtless man was sitting on a chair with a small TV table eating pancakes right in the middle of a crosswalk. The police decided to do something about it and showed up at the scene. However, by that point, Thomas was already gone. But thanks to the powers of the internet, they were able to find Thomas chilling at home. Someone had posted the video of him eating on Facebook, and police were able to figure out where he lived. We're gonna guess it's because it's not the first time Thomas has dealt with police before. He told police it was just a prank, but there's definitely no joke to him getting arrested. Number 2, where babies come from. Would you want a Florida man telling your kids about the birds and the bees? Of course not. A police officer watched Florida man Otis Ryan climb on top of a piece of playground equipment and start telling kids where babies come from. Of course, parents rushed to get their kids away from the busy playground, and probably put earmuffs on the kids so they couldn't hear what this guy was saying. So why were the police out there anyways? Well, Ryan most likely wanted to sort of start his own fight club, because police were actually called out earlier that same day when Ryan was found making inappropriate comments to women in an effort to get their boyfriends to fight him. Not sure what you guys think, but judging from this Florida man's mugshot, he most likely would be the type to shank someone for fun. Number 1, Back to the Future. A Florida man crashed his Dodge Challenger into the storefront of Advanced Tax Services in Pensacola. So why'd he do it? The unidentified driver told police that he was trying to time travel. Oh, it was Back to the Future time for this Florida man. Fortunately for him, he wasn't injured at all. Unfortunately for him, he might have already had a pre-existing injury to his brain. Police had the same idea because they took him to the hospital to be evaluated. Thankfully, the business was empty at the time when the driver was trying to copy Marty McFly from Back to the Future.
Here are some of the strangest Florida man stories. Wait until you hear about the bubble Florida man tried to get Bermuda with. Number 14. Gifts for everyone. How many times have you wanted to take revenge on an ex, but decided it's not really worth it in the end? Well, Florida man Michael Anthony Johnson isn't one of those people. He's a man of action. He decided to leave gifts for everyone. And by that, we mean he broke into his ex-girlfriend's home and left logs for everyone around the house. His ex-girlfriend was sleeping, but it was one of her 3 kids that saw Johnson doing his duties all around their house. Do you think he was actually on anything, or did he do this completely sober? When police arrived, Johnson was arrested and accused of leaving logs on a bed, a glass kitchen plate, a wallet, and a dresser. Where did this guy have dinner? And hey, do us a big favor and hit that like button below. Number 13. Tacos later. A Florida man has been magnet fishing with his girlfriend when he found an old grenade. So, what did they do? They decided to go get tacos at Taco Bell. If you ever happen to find a hand grenade, do the smart thing and call the police right away. But then again, this is Florida man we're talking about. It was only after a few hours later did one of them decide to call 911 and explain the situation. Taco Bell had to be evacuated for a few hours, and the bomb squad was called to safely remove the grenade. Thankfully, the bomb did not go off and no one was hurt. Safety first, tacos later. Number 12. Grocery mystery. Florida man Vernon Messier and his wife were grocery shopping when all of a sudden he heard a loud pop and felt a burn in his leg. A bullet had hit him, but he had no clue how it happened. Quiz time. How was Vernon shot? Was it A, Vernon accidentally shot himself because he forgot he had a gun on him? Or was it B, his wife accidentally shot him when she dropped her purse? Or was it C, a random Florida man came and shot Vernon? Or was it D, the random bullet was from a drive-by shooting outside the store? Nobody in the store saw what happened, and no one could figure out until the police showed up. Vernon and his wife were loading groceries into a shopping cart when it happened. If you guessed B, then you're right. It was because of his wife. As his wife moved some toilet paper into her cart, she knocked over her small brown purse, and that's when it happened. Her gun did not have a trigger guard, and it was just loose in her purse unholstered. But since it was an accident and they both had valid permits to carry, the case was classified as an accidental injury and she was not charged. Although, don't you think it's pretty stupid to carry around a gun like that? Number 11. Hungry Hippo. Florida police officer Richard Maston faced possible jail time because he ate a piece of paper containing sensitive information during a criminal trial back in 2014. Maston was the Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers executive director, and he was ordered to hand over a piece of paper that named the source of an anonymous tip. Instead of handing it over to the judge, he ate the information right then and there in the middle of a hearing. Maston said he did it because doing so would go back on the department's promise to tipsters of their identities never being compromised. And Maston wasn't about to break that promise because that meant tips would stop coming in. We're actually on Maston's side here. What about you? Number 10. Florida man explained? Have you guys ever wondered why Florida man is just so extra and crazy? Well, is it possible that this is what's causing it? Blooms of cyanobacteria, also known as toxic blue-green algae, are in the water all across Florida. The toxic algae produce some of the most powerful natural poisons on Earth. Scientists have warned that exposure to these toxins can cause liver damage and possibly brain damage. They're finding correlations to neurodegenerative diseases in marine life and people in general. For example, cyanobacteria emit BMAA, which is toxic to the brain. Science has linked BMAA to diseases such as Alzheimer's and ALS. The green slime produced by cyanobacteria leaves behind a dried crust, which new research revealed sends BMAA drifting into the air. While it's not proven that these toxins directly cause neurodegenerative diseases, scientists say the correlations are cause for concern and merit additional research. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our latest releases. Number 9. Open and shut case. 33-year-old Florida man Robert Houston held his dad down and yelled at him. And oh, we forgot to mention he also slapped his dad with a pizza. If you're asking us, why waste a perfectly good slice? So why was he mad at his dad? Because he blamed him for bringing him into the world. Obviously, he forgot to take his happy pills that morning. Interestingly enough, Houston just went outside and waited for the cops to arrive because he knew his dad was going to call the police. Deputies basically showed up and said, yep, this guy slapped his dad with a pizza. Let's go ahead and take him in because it's an open and shut case, Johnson. Number 8. Quality control. Florida man Douglas Kelly was arrested after complaining to deputies that he needed some quality control on some substance that he bought. If someone could think of something as dumb as this, the stuff has to be good, right? Kelly called the sheriff's office and explained that he bought some stuff about a week earlier, but he had a bad reaction to it, so he asked if the deputies could test out the quality for him. So the police decided to play along and told him to drive on down to the office, because why not if he's going to make things so easy? So Kelly was so dumb, he actually drove to the sheriff's office and handed over what he had wrapped in aluminum foil. Yep, it tested out to be some really good stuff, and Kelly was arrested and charged with possession. Number 7. Akin has cheeseburger. If there's one thing we know not to do, it's to not wake up a girlfriend the way this Florida man did. Kyle Jones decided to wake up his girlfriend by slapping her with a cheeseburger. What's up with Florida man and hitting people with food? He was arrested after his girlfriend called the police, telling them about the way she was woken up. Thankfully for her, she didn't have any signs of physical injuries, but the police were able to identify several leftover pieces of cheeseburger on her. Jones later admitted that he had a fight with his girlfriend, but that it never got physical. Police arrested and charged him anyway because who would make up being slapped with a cheeseburger? Number 6. Snowflake in Florida. Who knew that Florida man can also be politically correct? One Florida man felt so uncomfortable with comedian Ahmad's stand-up jokes at a club that he felt the need to call the police department to stop him from telling more inappropriate jokes. Apparently the joke told by Ahmad that set off this Florida man was this one. Clap if you're from the Middle East. Ahmad said, all right, we got a handful of us in here, nice. But hey, it only takes one of us to tell a joke. He and his wife felt so uncomfortable because of the joke that they had to call the police. So why'd they do it? Because he was scared that Ahmed would tell a similar joke at his next performance. The police actually showed up at the comedy club to speak with Ahmed. And no, they didn't arrest Ahmed because even they were completely confused to why the joke could be offensive. Number 5, laser strike. Florida man Vladimir Altman was arrested for doing something a 10-year-old would do, by shining a laser right at a sheriff's helicopter. The helicopter was flying over an apartment building when suddenly a laser was aimed into the cockpit from below. The pilot quickly spotted 3 people on a balcony and called for backup. Pointing a laser at the helicopter is dangerous because when the laser pointer hits the windshield, the glass diffuses the light. This can temporarily blind the pilot, and obviously, that's not something people inside the helicopter would want. Within minutes, deputies arrived and Altman was arrested and charged with a felony. Number 4, Mr. International. Of course, if a piece of Stonehenge is missing, it was Florida man that took it. 90-year-old Florida man Robert Phillips stole a 42-inch long piece of stone off of Stonehenge during archaeological excavations in 1958. But Phillips actually decided to return it after more than 60 years of owning it. Phillips had been taking it along with him all over the U.S. and all the places he's lived. It was only the night before his 90th birthday that he decided to return it with his sons Robin and Lewis. They flew the stone back to Stonehenge and presented it to the site's curator. Apparently, people stealing pieces of Stonehenge was a thing because 2 other sections are still missing. The museum was asked for the public's help in locating the other missing pieces. They're deemed to be important because apparently the missing pieces can help determine where Stonehenge is originally from. Number 3, Bermuda Run. Florida man Ray Bellucci was rescued for trying to literally run between Florida and Bermuda. But why? And what is that thing? He designed and built what he calls his hydropod, specifically for being able to run on water like he was in a giant hamster wheel. This was actually the second time he was rescued in under 2 years. His first rescue cost taxpayers $144,000 because an airplane, a helicopter, and a boat were deployed to rescue him. His reason for doing the journey again was to raise money for a children's charity. Unfortunately for him, he was rescued again 7 miles off the coast. There was basically no way for him to safely make the over 1,000-mile journey. So what was his plan to eat? He had brought some homemade protein bars and he planned on catching fish. But what about water, though? Number 2, free ride. Florida man Michael Paul needed a ride home from the hospital and he didn't have one, so he decided to steal an ambulance. This sounds exactly like Florida man logic, right? Paul noticed the red ambulance was just sitting there unoccupied as paramedics were taking a person into the emergency room. He had been in the ER earlier for what we don't know, but what we do know is that he was in a hurry to get home. Unfortunately for him, these ambulances have a GPS tracking device in it, so he was quickly found. Deputies tracked the ambulance within 30 minutes of it being stolen by Paul. And no, we're not going to make any comments about some of the strange things we're seeing in his mugshot. Number 1. Tough goodbyes. Only in Florida would you find a guy doing a crime with his partner as a monkey. Florida man Cody Heston had to be separated from his monkey after he was arrested for driving a stolen car into a ditch. Who puts their monkey along to steal a car? Of course, Heston didn't have a permit for his pet monkey named Monk because then he wouldn't be Florida man. Police caught Heston with a stolen car and his unauthorized monkey. He faced additional charges for having Monk without a permit. Although it was kind of cute and kind of sad moment when they shared a hug goodbye before Heston was taken to jail and Monk taken to a primate sanctuary. Watch this next video to find out about some of the dumbest criminals.